Alrighty. I am a child of the 60s, and while I still have the memories, I think I'll spill. These words may have been spoken then, but it was way more than words. First of all, war was history. Any sentient being, after witnessing Vietnam, knew no one would ever make that mistake again. After using every modern horror of war and seeing your friends return broken, and seeing what we were doing to the people of Vietnam, who would be insane enough to replay that scenario? The warlords in Washington were transparent. The president was advised that we were under attack. Who knows who knew what and when it was? Congress hasn't declared a war since December 8, 1941, so it was something that kind of hurt like war, and it cost like war, and it killed like war, but apparently it wasn't a war. I'm sure that this fact is not comforting to the maimed and the dead. The tiny country of Vietnam was bombed and poisoned to a degree unheard of. Many of the soldiers came home with horror movies in their heads that they couldn't turn off. Congress gave up on trying to ride herd on the executive branch. Soldiers that didn't completely lose their minds came home cynical beyond belief. There are hundreds of them sleeping on the streets of San Diego tonight. Greed could not possibly survive after the summer of love. If public opinion has anything to say, turns out it doesn't. Public opinion has absolutely no effect on state governments and less than no effect on Washington. Money is the only constituent, and a congressperson is only as good as the lobbyists say he is, and his pot of gold is waiting for him when he becomes one of them. Not that they are poor to begin with. More than half of them are multimillionaires, and Daryl, I got nothing, Isa is a half a billionaire. So it isn't exactly about the dollars and cents. It's about how they compare with their fellow criminals in Congress. So the dream of plenty by sharing was stolen while we were meditating on our breath. Spiritual living might allow for a solitary existence on a deserted island, but spiritual living in society is just an excuse for the greedy to take everything that isn't nailed down, and they always carry a crowbar and a screw gun. So far, greed and war are winning by a landslide. One of the other misconceptions was that if we shined a light into the dark quarters, the truth would win out in the end. Country Joe and the Fish described the Vietnam War in under 4 minutes in a song. The Rolling Stone magazine had article after article describing the lies and corruption. Ronald Reagan got busy trying to cripple the University of California. The modern equivalent of that is student loans that make the educated graduate slave for life. Donald can go bankrupt to the tune of billions, but the graduate, forget about it. The hippie-loved children were sure that they would not have the sexual hang-ups that plagued their parents. Well, as long as they kept it in the dark and in the marital bed, they were fairly safe. They had to be very careful in portions of the country who they fell in love with. Anyone darker than a one-day sunburn might cause a scandal. World War II soldiers in Europe had the good graces, for the most part, to confine their war brides to Germans and Italians and British. The soldiers in Japan and China had a rougher time bringing back their war brides. Black soldiers took their lives in their hands if they came back with Europeans or Orientals. But we were going to be different. We were going to let our freak flag fly, love whoever we wanted to, because everyone we were close to felt pretty much the same as we did. We were blindsided when we were labeled dirty, godless hippies, and while we weren't paying attention, our parents' generation was joining the KKK and the John Birch Society and laying the groundwork for the Tea Party. All I'm saying is that we had the best of intentions and we had the worst of reality. Everything we tried laid the groundwork for Fox News. When Senator Joseph McCarthy couldn't scare the living bejesus out of God-fearing patriots beating the bushes for commies, they started looking around for a bulletproof boogeyman. Turned out to be us. Oh, sure, now the boogeyman is terrorism, but they still keep us around to fill in the blanks on a slow news day. Wish things were different. Hope some of what we felt is still alive because it was good and it was powerful. Alrighty then.